Hello and welcome back to Divine Messy Human, the podcast. Today I wanted to talk to you about triggering and activations. Now, this is something that I think gets overused and misused out there, and also it gets taken and weaponized quite a bit. And I want to talk to you about it from my perspective, and I'm sure we will cover this in multiple episodes in the future as well, within different constructs and realms and topics, because it is a huge part of our healing. So, what is a triggering or an activation? That is where, when something happens, we go into reactivity mode. We are not in responsiveness. We are not using our mental faculties to think of creative solutions. We are purely in reaction, which means that we're in a different part of the brain. Now, often what will happen is we will feel a visceral response in our body when something triggers or activates us. And what is that? For me, it is an invitation for healing. Because a triggering or an activation where I feel something physically in my body and I go straight into reaction mode tells me that there is something under the surface that is hurting, that is traumatized, that is damaged, or that needs to be looked at and given a bit of love and compassion. So let's put this into a bit more perspective. I saw a reel the other day on one of the many social media channels that I have platforms on, or users platforms. And somebody was saying, "Oh, I feel triggered by that." And, "Oh, everybody seems to be triggered or activated by something." And yes, we can use it that way, as though we are the victim, as though we are not in control of our triggers and activations. We can use it to project our hurt onto somebody else, to throw something away that we should be responsible for, but we're not going to take personal responsibility for. Now, I am a big believer in self-responsibility in healing. I think it is the only way to move forward. It is the only way to gain real, long-lasting transformation and life changes that take your life from what it was to something completely and utterly magical. And there are a lot of things that trigger and activate us. Now, not all of them are going to be big traumas, but some of them could be really minute behaviors that activate a part of our brain that is storing quite a traumatic memory. Sometimes it can be just a posture that somebody holds, or a tone of voice. It could be a phrase or a set of words that put us straight back into reaction mode, as though we are in the original event, and sometimes we will not have a conscious idea of what that original initial event was that is creating this crazy out of character response. I've had multiple of these in my life, so trust me, I am intimately acquainted with unresourceful behaviors being triggered and activated, and me coming out in a completely non-enlightened, just childlike, childish way. I have had that unresourceful anger, the unresourceful tears, the blame, and the projection onto other people of what's going on in me, when actually it's got nothing to do with that. What has happened is something in me is crying out for me to look at it. So for me, the best way to do it is to notice what activates me, notice what gives me those strange, out of alignment feelings in my body. The things that make me want to run in and either attack or to defend myself. And when I notice those, and when I question their existence, question why they are there, and then either use my internal tools or go to an external trusted professional to work through it, I always come to a new level of healing. I come to a new level of an understanding about myself. So I'm going to give you the example of anger, because I love working with this emotion, because everybody has felt it. There are times I believe everybody has felt it and gone, where the hell did that come from? I think there's so many different examples within our own lives of anger. And even those of us who've taught to suppress anger and to not express it, There is this knowledge that I'm feeling really pissed off right now, and I don't want to express that because I won't be loved. So if we take anger as the example, when anger comes that very first time and we lose our temper, we're probably quite young. And what we have is we notice that the people around us have a reaction. And in that moment, it's like our personality, our way of expressing ourselves in the world splits. There is this part that showed the anger that then feels guilty, or that they did something wrong, or that there's something not good about expressing anger. And that part gets shoved down into our subconscious. And the bit that we try to develop then is the part of ourselves that made reparations, was the good girl to re-please everybody. Whatever that story is for you, there will be a behavior or a set of behaviors and actions that took you from being in that unresourceful reactive state and feeling really, really angry and feeling like you're being cast out by those people who are witnessing your anger, to reconnecting with those people. Now, often that's not always done in a healthy way, and that's fine. There's no judgment there. This is just what happens. I know I've done it to my children when they've expressed anger and I've told them off for being angry. I just know it happens in life. But what happens is each time we then experience anger, some of those parts that we've kind of shoved into our subconscious as being not part of the main personality, not part of the whole. It's one of those inner children who've been shamed for anger, or are made to feel not good enough or not worthy enough, or are made to feel like they've got no control over their life. Those parts, when we feel anger in the present moment, are bubbling up. They're trying to have us see them. They're calling for help. They're calling for an adult to take them and comfort them and say, it's okay, I've got this. Now, in that big scheme of things, when we're trying to hold our anger down, it's like we're trying to hold back this big explosion of all of those different parts of us, all of those inner children, all of those inner teenagers who weren't fully able to express what they were feeling in the moment for fear of shame or judgment, or for fear that they're just not lovable enough. And every time we experience anger, we have another split. We have another split. We have another split. So by the time we get to, say, my age at 45, if we've done no healing, that room in our subconscious has multiple personality parts and multiple children at multiple ages within us who were told that their anger was not okay to express. So, of course, when they find something they are feeling angry about in the present moment that triggers or activates them into anger, often it is these parts of ourselves that are calling for that attention. So I invite you, when you are feeling triggered or activated by something that's going on outside you, to recognize it, to make a note of it, and then to go and, either in reflection on your own or with a trusted professional, to ask the questions. What could this be trying to tell me? What have I not healed in myself that is making this situation blow so far out of proportion or making me react in that way? Remembering, of course, nothing makes you react in that way. It is conditioning. It is past traumas. It is suppressed and unexpressed emotions. It's all of those parts of life that create these reactionary patterns. So there is no blame, no judgment in this. We all have separated parts of ourselves. Even if we took sadness as an example, every time you shed tears as a child, don't cry. It's not that bad. Get on with it. Oh, crying over spilt milk again, are you? Whatever it is, if we've been shamed or diminished because we are having feelings and then we try to avoid those feelings, there's resistance. And so when we're resisting that in the moment, when we are feeling that emotion in the current day, all of these past experiences are then flooding the neural pathways, the chemical pathways in our body, giving us physical signs in the body that something is out of alignment. And that can come out in a multitude of different behaviors, in poor choice of words in whatever way it is. I've seen adults go into sulking before because they're in one of these reactionary patterns. So using this as an healing opportunity rather than as an opportunity to blame somebody else and to go into victim mode is where you can find both your greatest power and your deepest healing. It is a phenomenal thing to explore. So rather than try and pretend you don't have triggers or pretend they don't exist or to throw them away on somebody else, recognize that there is gifts and gold underneath that surface. And that if you want to go excavating, if you want to look at what all of those unresourceful behaviors are trying to tell you in the present moment, you end up taking such incredible control of your life. You get to embody change. You get to embody transformation. And then when you're faced with a similar situation in the future, you end up being able to respond to it instead of react. Anyway, sending you so much love for today. Remember, we are all connected to the divine. We are all messy as hell. And the more we can accept and love our divinity and our messiness, the easier our human existence becomes.